right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Love Restored. I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan. Thank you so much for holding down these next 30 minutes with me where we discuss chapter 5 inside of my book and where we're talking about listen as your spouse's friend and don't try to change him. Now, before we jump into that, let's talk about who I am and why you should listen to me weekly. Well, again, I am Marshaun Olaniyan. I'm a shift relationship strategist where I help Black Christian women to make themselves a priority so they can show up in their life as well as in their love life, not only being the priority, right? Making sure that they understand who they are, what they want, what they need, what they desire, but then also being able to transfer that, or I should say, couple that with how they want to show up to be a better wife, a better mother, a better coupled with how they want to show up to be a better mother, a better spouse, a better daughter, a better sibling, etc. Right? Just being better overall. Now, let's talk about this quote that I love because I love quotes. Let's start off. Listen as your spouse's friend and do not try to change him or her. You not only do not have the power to change your spouse, you also do not have the mandate or calling to change your spouse, by Dr. Doug Weiss. Listen, y'all, trying to change your spouse is a futile attempt. You know why? Because the only person that you can change is yourself, boo. You cannot change anyone else that does not want to change on their own. You can demand things and they may play along for a little while, but after a while, if it's not innate, if it's not something that they want to do for themselves, then they absolutely will revert back into the very person that you have been complaining about because it's not something that they truly want to do. This has to be something that they truly want to do in order for in order for your relationship or your marriage to continue to blossom, for the connection to stay around, for you to decide every single day and choose, you know what? I love this person. I chose great. I'm super happy and excited to be here, to be in this marriage, to be with this person that I chose. Thank you, Jesus. Super happy. Now, just to jump back, because I jumped into this real quick because I was just too excited. Okay. But I wanted to remind that you are listening to KCCR The Brownstone. You are listening to your girl, Marshaun Olaniyan, and this is Love Restored. So for the next 30 minutes, we will be discussing listening as your spouse's friend and don't try to change him. Right now, we are currently talking about the change portion and how it is a futile attempt for you to try to change your spouse. Now, let's continue on with the changing. The main thing that you want to think about is you're not trying to change the essence, the core essence of your spouse. It's not what you're trying to do. What you are trying to focus on changing is the behavior. The behavior is the main thing that's going to make the difference between you feeling like, I won the lottery with this person that I chose, or I'm feeling emotionally, financially, spiritually bankrupt. The behavior is what you have to focus on. And guess what? A lot of times we have a tendency to point the finger. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Not realizing that the person that you chose that person because that is where you were as well. You two were on the same playing field when you chose one another, whether you believe it or not. It's okay if you don't believe it. It's fine. But once you start to develop and mature and want to change yourself, you also have to realize that this is your journey. And because it's your journey, it doesn't mean that your spouse is going to want to jump on board right away. And sometimes ever, because some people just get very complacent where they're at. And some people are afraid to change. And there's a plethora of reasons why that could be that I'm not going to jump into. Plethora of reasons. But fear is a really big thing that a lot of people struggle with. But we're looking to change the behaviors, the way that they're showing up, the way that they're talking to you, how chivalrous the person is or not. Like things like that they can change. Like my whole thing is when I'm speaking to my husband, sometimes he has a tendency to cut me off, which drives me bananas. Now, your girl ain't perfect. It drives me bananas because I actually do the exact same thing, which is a side note that kind of goes along with this. The very things that drive you crazy is more than likely the very things that you actually do yourself. So in this case, me, it drives me crazy when he cuts me off, but I have a tendency to do the same thing. Now, the cutting off is not equalized. He definitely does it a lot more than me. However, it doesn't matter. We both cut each other off. But all of this is to say, because now I want that behavior to change, not only him changing, but also me. So I have to become more aware of how I'm showing up and becoming a better listener, which is the second part that we're going to jump into, right? But right now we're talking about changing the behaviors. In order to get your husband to influence, because you can't change him and you can't demand change, this has to be something that he wants to do. So in order to influence your husband, your spouse to change, you first have to change. You have to be the change that you want your spouse to see as well as imitate. So going back to my example with me, instead of me popping off and pointing the finger and all of this, neck popping, and I'm ready to give it to him, lashing out, I just had to figure out how to speak in a way to get his attention so he understands that this is very important to me. And guess what? I.e., you got to stop all this, okay? I had to simmer down myself. I had to swallow my own pride, and I had to be like, you know what? He's actually speaking right now. What you have to say, Marshaun, is not necessarily important in this moment. You want him to feel heard. You want him to feel understood. You want him to feel like you got his back. So guess what? In this moment, it's not your time to talk. What you have to say can wait, because what we don't realize as people is 9 times out of 10, when the person that is speaking, they have a tendency to answer your question or questions if you give them the opportunity to complete their thoughts fully. Now, are they going to answer every single one of your questions? Probably not. However, if you slow down, if you give him or her the opportunity to just verbalize, to just get it out, to just dump it out, they have a tendency to answer the questions that you want answered. It's got to simmer down and allow them to release, because that release makes them feel heard. That release makes them feel like, oh, dang, they let me speak for 30 minutes straight. Wow, that hasn't happened ever or in a long time. So you have to decide what behaviors that you want to work on. Start working on those behaviors, and guess what? Your spouse will notice. When it came back to me having the conversation, and I was just like, hey, I noticed that when I was talking, you cut me off. Didn't like it. Didn't feel good. I wasn't happy about it. But what I would like for you to do is just allow me just to complete my thought. But I do point it out that I was speaking in the moment. I just, not all of that craziness, but it is spoken like, hey, I was speaking in that moment. Can you let me finish? Thanks. However, guess what? The change that I want him to do and imitate, he's actually doing, and he's imitating, because I told you I'm not perfect. And in my times of me cutting him off, guess what he does? Excuse me. I was talking. Now, that's not his voice, right? But you get my drift. I was speaking. And then now we kind of laugh about it, because it's like, oh, okay, you right. You right. You got me. I was popping off. I wasn't letting you speak. My bad. That's my bad. So another way to influence your spouse to change is to find ways to compromise in small doses. See, any of us can compromise and do things in small doses at small increments. Let's go back. Let's go to working out. A lot of people have a tendency to want to have these weight loss goals, and they want to see these major results. But a lot of times we don't realize that it's all about showing up, being consistent with how you show up, and then doing the thing that you showed up to do, right? And so now we got to get to the gym, we got to work out, we got to, put on our clothes and all that other stuff and be ready to go. And then when we get there, actually do the workout, put in the hard work that we are trying to do while we're there. Well, guess what? Your relationship is the exact same way. You have got to be consistent and practice these new changes, these new behaviors, and realize that when you start doing them in small doses, small things add up to massive changes over time. It's not going to be today or tomorrow, but you will notice differences, hopefully positive differences in your relationship by just a small bite, just taking off small bites, chewing one piece at a time, small bite. You know what? Lay on my clothes. No, I said I'm gonna go to the gym. I gotta lay on my clothes. Tomorrow morning come, you got to get up, put them clothes on, and do what you said you're gonna do. Consistency. In this case, talking about our relationships with compromise and in small doses, showing up, practicing, being the change. Messed up. Get back on. Don't just mess up and fall off and be like, this too hard. I can't change. Get back on, because you're going to mess up. It's a new habit. It's a new behavior for you. It's not something that's innate of you as of yet. But the more you do it, you won't even have to think about. You won't even have to think about it anymore. It'll be there. You can do the doggone thing. You will feel more connected, right? Because we're trying to reignite our relationship by 7X, right? And so that's a way to do that, is to compromise and just to keep the relationship running smoothly by implementing these small compromising changes in incremental doses. Another way to keep the changes going, again, we got to start with self first, is you have to grow separately first outside of your spouse, because again, this is your journey. Remember, you can't change anybody that doesn't want to be changed. They really have to make the decision to say, I actually want to change that too. Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about that, and I see you haven't stopped. I actually want to jump on board too. Now, when that conversation happens, can be different for every couple, but it should happen. Grow separately first. This is what I want to do, and start doing that thing. Trust me, your spouse see you. They might not say anything. They might not be your biggest cheerleader in the beginning, because maybe your way of doing things, you start something, then you stop, and then you start, and then you stop, and then you start, and then you stop. And he's like, oh, okay, she's about to say it's probably in about another week or two. Be back on the same thing, not doing the thing, whatever. And then it's like, oh, wait, this 2 weeks. Oh, dang, that's 2 months. Oh, that's 3 months, 4 months. And just noticing all these changes in you. And they're like, you know what, I want to get on board. So change for you first. And then at some point, you guys do have to do it together at some point. Now, your threshold for waiting is different for each person. I can't tell you when to stop, when to go, when to throw in the towel, all that stuff. That is totally up to you if that is something that is running across your mind. But you do have to know that in the beginning, this journey will be yours and yours alone. But at some point, your spouse absolutely has to jump on board in order for you to continue to grow together, continue to see the beauty in one another, continue to be, I chose a great spouse, and we are building this thing together. Change will happen automatically, like absolutely automatically. It is the growth that is optional. Because growing together means that you both have to make a conscious choice, a conscious decision to say, I don't like where I am at. I don't like how I'm treating you. I don't like how I'm showing up. And because I don't like how I'm doing all of these things, now I have to figure out what I do want to do and start to do those things, because this is where the intimacy builds. This is where the connection stays firm. together, whether both of you feel like you are in this thing together. So change is automatic. It's absolutely going to be there, but that growth portion is optional. Now, let me take a break in here and say that you are listening to KCCR, the Brownstone, and I am Marshaun Olaniyan, your lovely host, and I am hosting Love Restored. If you have yet to download the apps, then definitely download the apps on all of your smart devices and visit brownstoneworldwide.com to visit all of the other personalities that are there, as well as just checking out the spices that they have there. The magazine is a plethora of other things that I want you to go ahead and check out. So check out the brownstoneworldwide.com. Now, if you want to follow me outside of Love Restored, then absolutely do that. You can follow me on go to www.marshauno.com. If you want to connect with me there, then that is where you would do that. Again, that's www.marshauno.com. Also, if you have yet to purchase your own book, then definitely go ahead and purchase your book so you can follow along with me. We are this entire season, we are going through this book right here. We are on chapter 5. And again, we are doing listen as your spouse's friend and don't try to change him currently. So you go to bit.ly/reigniting relationships. Again, that is bit.ly/reigniting relationships to pick up your copy today. Now, let's get back into this juiciness of changing your spouse. Growth, because I actually want to give you the definition of growth. Let's see here. Okay. So growth, by definition, is the process of developing or maturing physically, mentally, or spiritually. I mean, if you're not growing with your spouse, then what is the point of staying? Why put yourself in a situation where you are miserable because you want to grow, but your partner wants to remain stagnant, right? I mentioned that. It is nearly impossible to be in a relationship for many years and think you and your spouse will remain the same as he or she was years ago when y'all got together. It's not happening. The two of you will grow whether it is together or whether it is apart. Again, change is absolutely going to happen. The growth that needs to come in order for the intimacy to stay there, in order for connection to stay there, the two of you have to make a conscious decision to do that at some point together. Initially, it will be you, but at some point it needs to be together. This is how we keep our families together. Together. It has to be a team at some point in order to keep this thing running cohesively. Because personal growth is essential for any relationship to develop and mature. Now, I want to talk about another thing I want to give you another definition, for personal growth. It is on page 57 if you have your book. Personal growth is not the adversary in your relationship. And here are a few ways in which personal growth will help your relationship grow stronger, even if your spouse is not on board. Because as I mentioned, sometimes your spouse is not on board, especially in the very beginning. It is your journey. The first thing is you become the leader when you have to lead by example. Mentioned example before, right? You have to be the change that your spouse wants to see. Number 2, you will be more desirable due to you living life the way that you want to live it. Number 3, you will be able to communicate much better with your spouse because now you know what you want to do. When you have clarification, you're able to articulate how you want to live life, not only to yourself, not only to your spouse, but to the world, to anybody that you come in contact with, because now you are exuding this confidence. Your self-esteem is rising and rising, and maybe it's going through the roof at this point, and people can feel that. More people want to be around you. And hopefully your spouse is a part of that, more people. Okay. Number 4, you become more self-aware of your actions and how they affect you and your spouse. This is personal growth. It is essential for any relationship to develop and become mature. Right? Y'all, we doing it. Okay, we doing it. Okay, now I want to jump into the listening portion of this Love Restored because our 30 minutes are coming to an end. Okay. So listening is a form of art. Being a great listener takes practice, it takes patience, and it takes being purposeful. It takes being intentional, right? By not cutting the person off, by allowing the person to feel heard, understood, appreciated, where you're fully concentrating on what they are saying and not thinking about what you want to say in response to what you just heard. Allowing the person to really just exhale and vent and get all of the things out that they want to say in that particular moment without feeling like they will be disrupted. Because anytime any of us feel like we don't have a voice, or we have little to no voice, or we always get interrupted by our loved one, we have a tendency to stop talking to that person about the things that matter. It might stay superficial, but as far as getting down to the root, the deep root of who your spouse now is, because as I mentioned before, change is going to occur, right? And so, because change is going to occur, now I want to understand who this new person is changing into, who is this new person is morphing into, right? And so, in order to do that, I got to sit back and shut up and listen. I can't keep cutting them off every time they want to have a conversation with me about something that is important to them, brushing them to the side, right? All that stuff that don't even matter to them, down matter to me. Well, why you want to do that? Why you want to do that stuff? Or that's stupid. You know, active listening requires the listener to fully concentrate, to be fully present in those moments. And guess what? You got to remember what's being said too. You can't just be there just because you're there. You have to be there and allow your spouse to get it out, for them to be verbal, right? Excuse me. Yes, you want them to be verbal, but you want yourself to have those non-verbal cues to say that you're listening to, like giving them eye contact, like nodding, like leaning in, like asking follow-up questions, agreeing or disagreeing, or just saying, you know what, tell me a little bit more about that. Like asking follow-up questions. That way you can get a full understanding of what they are saying, whether they are complaining in that moment or whether they're trying to flush out something that they want to begin. Or maybe you having a serious talk about some of the things that you both can be better in, whatever you're speaking about. You want to listen as a friend, right? You want to listen and say, yeah, you matter, without you having to say you matter. You saying you matter by you just being there. You're saying you matter by you allowing them to speak without interrupting them. You saying that you matter by giving them eye contact. You are saying that your spouse matters by asking the follow-up questions. You are saying that they matter when you're like, yeah, I understand that. I can see why you felt that way. You're telling them in a non-verbal way that they matter to you. So this is how we actively listen to our spouse. But then overall, you literally can take this skill, this art form with you in every situation, in every conversation. And it's all about consistency. It's all about practicing. You're not going to be perfect at any of these things. But in order to keep all of these connections, each relationship is a connection. In order to keep these connections alive and well and thriving, you got to take yourself and your ego really out of it. Got to take your ego out of it. You have to be willing to allow that person to fully express themselves without any form of interruption. This is Marshaun Olaniyan, y'all. I am super happy that you decided to stay around for these 30 minutes and to get caught up with how to listen to your spouse as a friend, and ways to take away so you're not trying to change your spouse versus you are accepting the challenge to be the change that you want your spouse to be, because that is absolutely the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way that your relationship is going to continue to thrive, by you doing it first, by you being the leader, by you feeling good about the things that you want to do in your life and actively going after them to do them, by you working on you first. At some point, you two coming together and working together, because that has to happen. It has to be a team effort. But you have to get clarity on the things that you want to become better in, the things that you want out of life, before you have to articulate it to your spouse, because a lot of people have no clue where they're going wrong in their relationship. Have no clue. So we're not blaming, we're not shaming, we're not making anybody feel guilty. We are only and taking 100% responsibility for how we're showing up, for the things that we're saying, for the things that we're doing, for the things that we're not doing, for the things that we're not saying, for the choice and the mate that we made. He chose you and you chose him. Y'all chose each other. And so in order to reignite your relationship by 7X, you have to continue to do the things, or to start doing the things that you didn't even know you needed to do. But it's time. It's time. It's time to reignite your relationship by 7X. Again, you are listening to KCCR, the Brownstone. I am Marshaun Olaniyan. Thank you so much for staying here, kicking it with me for these last 30 minutes. I really enjoyed it. If you have any questions, absolutely reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Here on Love Restored, or you can go to my website at www.marshauno.com. Again, if you have yet to download the apps on your smartphone, then go ahead and download the apps on your smartphone and visit brownstoneworldwide.com to see everything that is offered to you there. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it. This is your girl Marshaun, and I will see you on the next Love Restored. Bye-bye now. Don't forget to go pick up your copy of, if you have yet to pick up your copy, don't forget to pick up your copy at bit.ly/reigniting relationships. Don't forget, okay, one more time, bit.ly/reigniting relationships. I am your girl, Marshaun Olaniyan, and I'm truly appreciative that you decided to stay out and hang out with your girl for these past 30 minutes. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it, and I will see you in the next Love Restored. Bye-bye now.